Some states want $50,000 an acre, but in 5 states, the off-grid math still works. I will show you the actual prices, the rules that bite, and the month your setup pays you back. One warning before the numbers, because the price per acre is never the price. My name is Hank Ross. I am 70 and I live off the grid at the end of a road the plow does not come down. People ask me whether off-grid living is practically free, and the honest answer is that the land can be, and nothing else is. But before I sell you anything, let me be straight about what free means here. Practically free means the dirt is cheap. The well, the road, and the septic are not. That is the part the video leaves out. So before we go state by state, where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments. I read every reply, and half of what I know about water costs I learned from people who live on the dirt we are about to price. Here is the arithmetic that matters. I have been at this since 1998, when I paid $18,000 for 20 wooded acres and a driveway I had to cut myself. My own well cost $6,800 and 190 feet of steel casing, and remember, I got off cheap. My first solar array was 4 panels and a wall of golf cart batteries, and it ran a refrigerator, a radio, and a light. The common number floating around says the average household hands over about $22,000 a year between rent and utilities, which comes to roughly $1,850 a month. The question is whether 5 acres can beat that check. Set it against a $10,000 used trailer and $4,500 of panels, and an honest payback runs 12 to 21 months where the water is easy. Where the water is hard, the arithmetic turns into long division, and you will be doing it by lantern light. A man wrote to me that he wants to build a small off-grid retirement spot for people in their 50s who worked hard and have nothing set aside. But he is not the exception. Half my mail is him, and this arithmetic is for him. Now, the state everybody names first is Colorado, so let me deal with it and be done. Pasture there trades around $1,100 an acre on paper, and the paper is the only place that number survives. The real numbers come from the residents, in their own words, and the catch comes in 3 parts. Water permits that take a season, building rules that treat a travel trailer like a crime, counties that let you camp on your own dirt for 90 days and not 1 day more, in a state where working people say they are being priced and regulated out of the valleys their grandparents ran cattle in. The truth is, cheap acreage you are not allowed to live on is not cheap acreage. So Colorado is off my board, and the 5 states coming up are the ones where the residents, not the videos, say the math still holds. But what does each state get from me? The same treatment. What the video says, what the people who live there say, and what the well actually costs. Then the corrected stack, land plus water plus septic plus trailer plus panels, divided by $1,850 a month. That division is the only verdict worth having, so that is what I will give you. The first state is Missouri, and I am leading with it because the people who live there are the loudest witnesses I have ever read. Down in the Ozarks in Howell County and Texas County, logged woodland runs near $5,000 an acre, but a listing price is only the opening bid. One man watching a video like this one grabbed 5.5 acres at $5,100 an acre, then spent his first summer dragging logging debris with a chain and a come-along. Another documented just under 6 acres for less than $45,000 with 0 restrictions, and I want you to sit with that phrase for a second. 0 restrictions. No permit for a barn, no minimum square footage, nobody measuring your trailer, and a sheriff the locals speak well of by name. But here is what the Missourians will tell you that the videos will not. The Lone Star ticks are serious, and they can hand you a red meat allergy the doctors call alpha-gal. January drops below 0 and stays there. One woman waters her greenhouse with a sump pump out of her pond, which sounds like freedom until the pond freezes. Now here is the water question, and Missouri answers it better than any state on this board. 40+ inches of rain a year, springs and creeks everywhere, and a well through Ozark limestone at 200 feet runs $7,000 or $8,000, sometimes half that if you hit a shallow spring, which means the water can cost less than the land itself, and that is the whole trick of this state. Septic about $3,000. Now here is the corrected stack. $25,500 for land, $7,500 for water, $3,000 septic, $10,000 trailer, $4,500 panels, call it $50,000 even, and the rent check pays it back in 27 months, free and clear after that. My friends down there garden in dirt that would make a Tennessee farmer jealous, and their property taxes run under $300 a year. The consensus pick is the right pick. The next state is Alabama, and if you are past 65, it may be the cheapest place to be alive in this country. Over in the wooded east, in Clay and Cleburne counties, unrestricted tree land trades around $2,500 an acre, 10 acres of hardwood for $25,000, and the sellers are not asking much because nobody else is bidding. But the videos skip Alabama entirely, and that tells you the algorithm is not from around there. The residents do not skip it. One man documented 10 unrestricted treed acres at $25,000, taxes under $100 a year, and rain catchment written into the law is plainly legal, which matters more than any acre price in a dry year. But here is the part that should stop a retired man cold. Alabama zeroes out the state property tax on a homestead once the owner is over 65, and many counties follow suit locally. A tax bill of zero on dirt you own outright for as long as you draw breath. Show me the fund that beats that, except Alabama is wet, and wet changes the well. 55 inches of rain means a shallow well at about 5,500, or you skip the well entirely and run a cistern off the barn roof for 2,000. Septic runs 3,000 in that red clay. The corrected stack with the well is 25,000 land, 5,500 water, 3,000 septic, 10,000 trailer, 4,500 panels, 48,000 for 10 acres, paid back in 26 months. Which means a couple in their 60s can own their retirement outright for less than 3 years of rent. But know your neighbors before you buy, because rural Alabama is beautiful and it is remote, and the sheriff may be 40 minutes out. Remember, the people who live there say so plainly, and so will I. So which state is cheapest of all? Eastern Oklahoma, and the numbers there are the cheapest honest numbers I will show you. A man bought 10 wooded acres there for $12,500, oak and black walnut, pecan, apricot, and apple, with better than 40 inches of rain, all of it a short drive from Lake Tenkiller and Lake Eufaula. That is $1,250 an acre for ground that feeds you. Think about that for a second. I paid more for my driveway in '98. The eastern counties barely zone at all, little to no restrictions in the words of the people who live there, and a well at 150 feet runs about 5,000. But Oklahoma is cheap for a reason, so look at it straight. Wages are scarce, the red clay heaves a foundation, and a tornado does not respect your permit situation. One man who lives out that way put the whole strategy better than I can. Earn where the wages are good, buy the land while it is cheap, pay it off, and retire onto it with zero payments. Consider that the Oklahoma doctrine. The corrected stack is 12,500 land, 5,000 water, 3,000 septic, 10,000 trailer, 4,500 panels. $35,000 for 10 wooded acres, and against the rent check that pays back in 19 months. 19. Look at that number. It is the fastest on this board, and it is real. A family with one pension and no landlord could be eating off their own pecan trees in 2 years. But I will only say this once. If these numbers are worth anything to you, subscribe, because next I'm going to price the state that looks free on the sticker and show you the water bill that eats the savings. Hank does not do this for the exercise. The fourth state is Tennessee, and I picked it from the tax records instead of the forums. Turns out the comptroller up in Nashville publishes the property tax numbers every county bills against, and here is what they show. Tennessee assesses a homestead at a quarter of its market value. The effective rate statewide runs about 0.5%, and there is a property tax relief program for homeowners past 65. So what does that mean in plain English? 5 acres with a cabin can carry a yearly tax bill of $200 or $300, and that is not a rumor. It is written in the state's own tables. Around Cookville and Crossville, up on the Cumberland Plateau, rough hill land runs about $3,000 an acre. 15,000 for 5 wooded hollows, and some of the prettiest country God ever folded. But the same hills that keep it cheap make the road expensive. Budget 2,000 for gravel and a culvert where the county road quits. The well runs 6,000 through limestone, septic 3,000 on a slope. So the corrected stack is 15,000 land, 2,000 roads, 6,000 water, 3,000 septic, 10,000 trailer, 4,500 panels, 40,500 paid back in 22 months. And remember the reappraisal cycle, because it matters more than the sticker. The state reassesses on a rotating schedule, and the certified rate is built to keep the total bill level. But improvements raise your assessment, so live on the land a year and learn the county before you build the barn. What makes Tennessee the balance play is everything around the price. Rain in the 40s of inches, no state income tax on wages, town within an hour, hospitals within a drive. For a man my age who still wants a doctor and a hardware store in reach, that is the whole ballgame. The last state is the honest one, West Texas, and I kept it on the board so you can watch the trap with the lights on. Out past the pecan orchards, 20 acres with electric already at the property line traded at $1,750 an acre. 5 acres of high desert for under $9,000, the cheapest land on this board by a factor of 3. No real zoning to speak of, no state income tax, and sun better than 300 days a year, so your panels work like a part-time job you never have to thank. So what is the catch? Water. A driller in West Texas quotes $50,000 to $75,000 for a well, because the water table sits hundreds of feet down in rock. That is the hidden number that deletes the whole game. Your $9,000 paradise needs a $50,000 straw before you can flush a toilet. There are 2 ways around it, and I will not pretty up either one. Haul water in a tank on a truck, a 500-gallon tote and a standing weekly drive, or catch the thin rain into a cistern and live on a ration. Remember, people do both and call it freedom, and it is freedom, the way a second job is income. But run the corrected stack both ways. With the well, 9,000 land, 60,000 water, 3,000 septic, 10,000 trailer, 4,500 panels. Call it 86,500, a payback of 47 months on land that looked free. Hauling instead, 41,500 total, 22 months, except now you are 1 flat tire from thirst. And yet the county will reassess whatever you improve at better than 2%, the heaviest tax line on this board. One man there says his county raised his assessment after a wildfire burned his buildings down. The truth is the sticker price is bait. West Texas is either the cheapest freedom in America or the most expensive lesson of your life, and the well decides which. Run the numbers with me one last time. Corrected. Missouri, 50,000, 27 months. Alabama, 48,000, 26 months, and the tax bill dies at 65. Oklahoma, 35,000, 19 months. Tennessee, 40,500, 22 months. West Texas, 86,500 with the well, 41,500 hauling. Now look at what the board teaches. The states that look free on paper and the states that are free in fact are separated by exactly one thing, the price of water, and no amount of sunshine changes it. So tell me in the comments. Which state are you watching from, and did your county make this list or break the math for you? I read everything. Remember, the best corrections I ever got came from people who own the dirt. Next week I am pricing the mirror list, the states where the off-grid dream goes to die. And the deserts will not even be the worst of it. Until then, this is Hank Ross, down at the end of a road the plow does not come down, doing the long division so you do not have to. $50,000 an acre is a rumor. Arithmetic is a fact.